Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. This is the final video in my pre-fight coverage for the Joseph Parker Hughie Fury world title fight in just under a day's time in Manchester at the Manchester Arena. If you're new to the channel and checking out some coverage before the fight, there's literally dozens of videos from the past 3 months on the build up to this fight on this channel, including at least one a day in the past couple of weeks. And as you know, and you might have heard, there's been a lot going on. So fill your boots with some of that other stuff if you want to get some good context and background, see where we've come. So a quick word on the weigh-in. Obviously, a bit of feeling between the two fighters and the two teams. And you may have seen it devolved into a bit of argy-bargy. If you haven't caught up with it, Glad Rap Channel has some good coverage. So Parker actually told Glad Rap Channel Fury was saying to him before things devolved, "This is my time, this is the new champion." In response, Parker told him, "Relax, little boy." So from there, you would have seen Fury, and if you haven't seen, go check it out, Fury pushing Parker, and it's setting off a sort of handbags at dawn sort of stuff between the respective entourages. On the actual weigh-in, Fury looked lean, as you might expect. He looked in pretty decent condition, maybe a tad soft around the middle there. But, I mean, in terms of, him, that's his natural sort of build. He's never going to look like a pumped-up weightlifter, as another boxer likes to say. Parker, he looked in decent shape. He certainly, for me, to the eye, looked leaner and less bulkier than his past couple of fights. But surprisingly, he still weighed in at just over 246 pounds. I personally think he always looks a bit faster and sharper when he's close to 240. But when I look at some of the clips that I've seen, he is looking a bit faster and sharper. So reconciling that in my mind is, having a little bit of trouble with that. But more on that in a moment. So the table is set for what's going to be an enthralling matchup. No more talking. No more BS. No more uncertainty if this fight is going to occur. I've already covered off how I think Hughie Fury can win, and I'll make sure you can click to that video at the end of this one. So now, what about Joseph Parker? How does he win? How does he keep the belt? First off, he needs to start fast. He cannot afford to give away the early rounds, as a tentative start will play right into the hands of Hughie Fury, who will be living off the jab and using his height and reach advantages to rack up easy rounds if Parker lets him. Plus, getting in the hole early on the scorecards in the home fighters arena, well, that is just simply asking for trouble. You don't want to be in that situation, especially if the fight ended early through whatever, a headbutt, for example. He needs to follow through. He needs to do what he says he's going to do and be aggressive. What I mean by that is he has to be relentless in his pursuit of Hughie Fury. Chase him down, cut off the ring, cut down Fury's opportunities to rest and regroup. Basically, a blitzkrieg. He needs to be in his face, throwing and landing as often as possible. And not just single shots. He has to be in there letting his hands go and throwing combinations, which he is very adept at doing. He has to use his natural advantages to get his work away. His ace in the hole, and it really is, it's his fast hands. Possibly the fastest in the heavyweight division at letting his punches fly. Just on that, I've been a bit disappointed to hear some people who've been weighing in on this fight saying Parker doesn't stand out in any way at all. I mean, frankly, that's just crap. And for me, that shows they're late to the party and only judging Parker off his most recent performances. One of the things that set Parker apart from other prospects and established heavyweights as he was coming up was his hand speed and how quickly he could land. He really does have speed here. And I've been running some footage you would have seen in the background here of Parker from his training camp. What struck me in the past 2 months from these snippets is that how sharp he's been looking, how good the speed is looking. It's faster than I have seen in some time, noticeably faster. For me, that's down to two things. He's in better shape, and also related to that, he's not carrying some of the injuries that he was. He's had an assortment of elbow, back, shoulder type injuries in the past year or two. Some are related to overuse. Most of the time, we only ever hear whispers about them. Not at all, or only after the fact. And his trainer, Kevin Barry, is saying Parker is the healthiest he has been in some considerable time. That the extra rest has helped heal the injuries and let the overuse injuries subside. I see the result in the clips that they've been putting out. I think it's pretty clear. He is looking sharp. For me, Parker's biggest weapon is his speed. And this is the thrust of this video and how Parker wins. Speed kills. The faster you go, the bigger the mess. That is the old road safety adage, the slogan, and so it is true for Parker. His ability to throw punches in fast flurries when he's in range will be vital to his chances. His hand speed will be vital to catching up with Hughie Fury, who will be a hot mess of ducking and weaving and moving in general. So if Parker can catch up with Fury, he might be able to hurt him. Because if he can't hurt him, he can't knock him out. He doesn't knock him out, then he's not going to win. Parker needs to get Fury out of there early, in the first half dozen rounds or so. Otherwise, it could be a very long night. Fury is no joke. And if he can't get him out of there earlier, well, we might be hearing something we're not familiar with. And the new. If Parker is fighting fit and throwing faster than recent outings, which I think he is, his power will be increased. Speed generates force. And when you have 246 pounds throwing a fast punch at your body or your face, it's going to have a solid impact. I see a big emphasis being placed on trying to destroy Hughie Fury's body in this fight. I don't really know if we've ever seen him properly tested to the body. And looking at the weigh-in, his belly looked a tad soft, but that can be deceptive. So I'm not going to read too much into that, but, because he could be like wrought iron underneath. But for me, Fury will be running all night if Parker lets him. So Parker has to be relentless. He has to let his hands go. And pounding the body is key to slowing Fury down. He slows him down, he's more likely to be hittable, and that works for Parker. The reverse is also true as well. Let's face it, Parker is going to have to eat some leather on the way in. He's going to be eating some leather sandwiches. So if he really wants to execute a super aggressive strategy, he's going to have to take some punishment. Closing the distance against a bigger fighter, a bigger man who's got a reach advantage, it is not without its risks. But if he can take Fury's best and give out his own, he will be in a position to hurt Fury. Whether he can or not, it's an open question, but he will be in a position to hurt him if he can close the distance and let his hands go. And one of the things related to that, if he can get in there, and he's in there often, and it shouldn't be understated, is fitness. Because for me, Parker, there's been a bit of a question mark in the past about his fitness. He has tended to gas out here and there in fights, and especially when he's gone for all-out attack. Even against Kajanu and Ruiz, he looked a little gassed out later on in those fights, after putting up, solid performances, early to mid rounds, that sort of thing. But especially against Kajanu, he put up some solid, if uninspiring, rounds. But after about the 8th or 9th round, you could visibly see he'd slowed down a lot. And I think it might have been the 10th round. Kajanu obviously decided, well, I think he slowed down a bit. I'm going to start letting my hands go now. And that was the only round I gave to Kajanu in that fight. And Parker did take it off. And he can't afford to take off any rounds in this fight, especially early on. But it looks like Kevin Barry has put a bigger emphasis on fitness for this fight to complement an aggressive strategy. You can see on screen again that he's been doing all sorts of fitness work, running up hills and stuff like that. And trust me, he will need every last ounce of his stamina and fitness if he's to constantly pressure Fury in those first half a dozen rounds. He needs to be on him like white on rice, closing the distance, cutting off the ring, being in his face, putting Fury in a position where he's getting no rest. There's no respite. He needs to be applying pressure. I mean, sure, I can see him slowing down as the fight wears on. That happens in all fights. But he needs his fitness reserves for this fight. One of his prime sparring partners is Malik Scott. So he has been training with Joseph Parker for the last couple of months. And Scott is a noted mover who can be quite awkward to catch up with. So I'm sure they've been running all manner of scenarios and reviewing film to mimic Fury's tendencies. And going through all sorts of things that could potentially happen. And this will be a different fight, as Fury fans have pointed out. A fight Joseph Parker's not really going to be used to. A fighter Joseph Parker's not really used to. A style Joseph Parker's not really used to. There won't be a stationary target in front of Parker, sitting in the pocket, trading with him, all sorts of things like that, or coming in, getting his work away and then taking a breather. Fury is going to be on the move. I'd be shocked if he wasn't. So I'm really looking to see what improvements Parker has made, if any, for other things like his footwork, his ability to move laterally. Also, crucially, will we see Parker moving his head and slipping punches? A couple of things that we've seen from Parker fights, and this is most Parker fights I would sort of say, is that his head movement tends to ground to a halt the later the fight goes on. After a few rounds, he ends up blocking punches with his face. Let's face it, that's not a great long-term strategy if you're a boxer. His hands also tend to drop lower and lower as fights wear on. So for me, the defensive tweaks are almost as important as the offensive ones in a way. He needs to be pummeling Fury without taking too much punishment in return. I mean, it does sound easy, but it's never easy, and it's going to be incredibly hard to put into action. There's a lot of variables that could play out and influence the outcome of this fight. For me, Parker can beat Fury. He can hurt him. He can potentially knock him out. But it starts and ends with his speed. For me, there is no bigger factor in a Joseph Parker win. This is my last word on the build-up. So thank you for watching not only this video, but all the coverage that has been on this channel in the past couple of months. I really do appreciate you watching and viewing it and giving me your thoughts about how you think things are going and will play out in the fight. Appreciate it, really do. Drop a comment. Let me know what you make of this fight, what's going to happen. And also if you've enjoyed the content in recent days, weeks and months. I guess I'll see you back here at the channel post-fight. We'll see how it goes. May the best man win. I'm out.